Nate Goyard.
Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, coming bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she pay. Bad bitch, throw back, I just hit another lick and she be counting in my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, in my life. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, coming bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she pay. Bad bitch, throw back, I just hit another lick and she be counting in my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, in my life. If she fucking with me, then you know I cut it down. I be feeling like a Uzi, got my mind up on the check. Foot loose, getting goofy with your hoe, she love me better. I ain't talking ass cash, but that bitch she blood. And I posted out with twin gloss and phone bitches, no face. All they want is squad, I burn bridges. I be getting to the bag, you still cleaning dirty dishes. 2 mops and shots to your spot with no limits. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your mans. You be capping like a snitch, no thoughts, won't stand. 2 hoes, 10 toes, new guap, cutting bands, new whip, new chips, new kicks, Jackie Chan, as she bad. Bad bitch, throw back, I just hit another lick and she be counting on my rest. And I be feeling hella rich, no Brian, 100 stack, about to make another hit, God bitch, on my life. Stay with me, little bitch, yeah, you know that I'm your man. You be capping like a snitch.
What's up, guys? It's Aiden What If, and I'm back again with another video. This is what if Deku had Samehada, or shark skin, or however you want to say Samehada's name. I think this would be pretty interesting. So yeah. Oh, but before we get in, I would like to say that Mina is also going to be the ship for this, so just, you know, be prepared for that since it is coming. Anyway, sorry for not uploading for a while. You know, I really don't have no excuse. I just couldn't get any ideas in my head. But definitely leave a comment if you guys want any of the previous series I've done recently brought back, like what if Deku had a ceiling quirk and twice his son. If you guys want to see that, some more episodes, you know, I'll make sure to get those. But without any further ado, let's get right into the video. We start off with Izuku being born like normal in every single reincarnation in this what if universe. But anyway, Izuku was born normal, exceedingly normal, too normal for even normal standards. Izuku was just a regular child, which is quite different, seeing as most people in the Hashigoki family have some type of physical distinction, but Izuku didn't have even a single hint of blue skin, sharp teeth, gill looking things, nothing, just nothing. Izuku was extraordinarily normal. Hisashi immediately began to think why his son looked so normal. I mean, Hisashi wasn't abnormal, but he wasn't exactly regular. Inko was a bit worried at Hisashi's face, and she told him not to worry since he'd probably be fine. Izuku went on with his life and actually didn't have many problems with bullies except for being bullied occasionally by Bakugo. But this, you know, this only did end up getting worse the older he got. Around the time Izuku was 4 years old, he was getting bullied constantly by Bakugo and some of his goons as well, since they started to join in. Of course, Izuku wasn't no pushover, and he'd fight back, which is why it took so long for this to fully happen. But Izuku didn't have a quirk, so he was getting beaten up by these guys every single day. Izuku, after turning 4, because he was born a couple months after everyone else, so he just turned 4, he went to the quirk doctor, and the quirk doctor immediately told him that he had no type of quirk. Inko immediately began to hug her son as she cried, saying, I'm so sorry, Izuku. Izuku immediately just began to think. He started thinking and thinking and thinking. Izuku didn't know what to say. He wanted to speak, but words didn't come to mind. It was like nothing he'd ever experienced before. It was just this void, and Izuku didn't know how to handle it. He then began to hug his mother, smiling, saying, don't worry, Mom, it's okay. It's not your fault. You haven't done anything. She begins to cry and cry more, and that's when she calls up Hisashi, who's currently on a business trip overseas, and she tells him about the entire incident. Hisashi then thinks to himself, saying, interesting. I won't say anything for now, but I may say something later. Also, Hisashi in this universe stays with the family and he's also what we like to call in this universe a hunter. A hunter is just basically someone who's funded by the government, pretty much their Black Ops team. Anyone who has a powerful quirk, who escapes like Japan and is a bad person, his job is to chase them down and kill them. That's Hisashi's role, right? So yeah. Anyway, Izuku was just going about his business, but eventually he started to get more and more, not really depressed, but not outwardly facing his emotions. Izuku just started to walk around and not really do the same things he once did. Inko noticed this difference but didn't want to disturb him, seeing as she might just make it worse. Izuku was walking around going to a playground one day when he saw Bakugo and his goons. Izuku just sat on the bench, not wondering what they were doing or paying him any mind. That's when Bakugo walked over to Izuku saying, "Hey Deku." Izuku looks over and says, "What?" Then Bakugo gets angry with him saying, "Did you just answer me what?" "Look here, Deku. You are no one of importance. You don't even have a quirk. So what makes you think that you can talk to me that way?" Izuku then says, "Look, Bakugo, I don't really care. You and your goons here, all you do is bully me anyway. It doesn't matter what I say. You'll just do it to me anyway. So why do I care?" He got up and began to leave when Bakugo grabbed his shoulder and threw him back onto the ground. Bakugo began to laugh at Izuku as he was on the ground. Izuku did not care though. He just simply got up, dusted himself off, and walked away. And this just infuriated Bakugo even more. And Bakugo ran at him and tapped him on the back with an explosion that actually sent Izuku flying a bit. This is a fairly strong explosion since this Bakugo actually has been training since he has hero appearance as well. Like they're just a duo, right? So yeah, he's actually been training. Izuku started to groan in pain a bit as his back of his shirt was completely torn apart and his back was slightly burned a bit, but the stinging was not going away. Bakugo then immediately realized he went a bit too far and told his goons that it's time to leave. Izuku, after a couple of minutes of squirming on the ground, managed to get up and try to walk back home. That's when Izuku came in the house and Inko immediately rushed towards him using her quirk to pull him towards her, and she called the hospital. That's when she called Hisashi crying, saying, "Hisashi, Izuku's being bullied more and more. This has to stop. I'm thinking about moving. Maybe we should go to a different place. Maybe we should go to wherever it is you are or just somewhere different. Izuku is just, it's getting worse." He came home with burn marks all over his back. Hisashi then groaned, saying, "I hope that I don't regret this decision." Inko says, "What do you mean by that?" He says, "Oh, nothing, Inko. I'm on my way. I'm coming back now." And she says, "Okay, hurry." Hisashi says, "As soon as I can." And he cuts off the link. He then picks up a very large sword with one hand wrapped in bandages. And he then increases his grip on the sword's hilt and also opens his eyes more widely. And immediately the sword starts growing larger and spikes start coming out. And then Hisashi just looks at it saying, "Samehada," as the thing starts almost chuckling like a hyena. It says, "I need you to go help my son. I'm fairly sure you know how to find him." Samehada doesn't really say anything, and he then says, "I want you to help him, but don't overdo it. Okay?" Samehada doesn't respond, and Hisashi, being at the dock, says, "Alright, now go find my son." And he immediately throws Samehada into the ocean, and Samehada begins swimming to Izuku. That's when Hisashi goes to get on the plane. Then we cut back to when Izuku was there. Izuku's been out of the hospital for a good little while now, and most of his injuries have recovered, but he has a couple burn marks. Izuku in his neighborhood, there's a girl named Mina, and she has powers that are extraordinarily dangerous. So Like most parents, Inko really does not want anyone to touch Izuku because she thinks he's too delicate to be around other children. She's gone into protective mode. That's when Izuku goes to the docks one day, and Izuku's just sitting there like, why? Why is there nothing fun in life anymore? I can't be a hero because I don't have a quirk. Would things even change if I did have a quirk? It's not even about the quirk itself, it's about this world. This world is just so cruel to people in general. But what could I do? I'm just a quirkless nobody. And as soon as Izuku says that, a sword jumps out of the ocean and immediately swallows Izuku whole and begins to scurry off, hopping. And immediately when Izuku wakes up again, he's on the ground at the playground where he was when he got his burn marks. Izuku then notices that the sword is alive and wagging by him and nuzzling up to him. Izuku does not know what's going on and runs away, trying to run away, but the sword keeps following him. Izuku turns around yelling at the sword to stop chasing him, but the sword does not listen. Izuku asks, wait. And he just remembered everything that happened. And he gets a little bit of a fearful look on his eye saying, that sword swallowed me whole. But it's a sword. That's not how swords work. Samehada then begins to slowly approach Izuku. And Izuku's just scared, so he's a child. He doesn't actually want to. He wants to run, but he doesn't have the energy for it. He's tired, really tired. And that's when Samehada touches Izuku, and Izuku starts feeling revitalized. Samehada then slowly begins to crawl up Izuku and just on top of him. And then Samehada starts to dissipate. And Izuku starts feeling more and more energized until the sword is completely gone. And Izuku is transformed into something much different than he was before. He's sort of this shark-like creature. But then that form dissipates and Izuku's eyes just turn into deep blue slits. Deep blue outline with dark slits in the middle. Izuku then wonders what's going on, but all of a sudden he starts getting an influx of information. Izuku's body starts to immediately ache. He starts smelling everything around him in a couple mile radius. He even starts sensing the electrical activity of other people's brains around him, and his mind can't handle it. And he's starting to fall to his knees, and then Samehada immediately jumps out of Izuku. Izuku still feels a bit energetic, but different. He realizes that the sword means him no harm, since if it wanted to destroy him, it could have by now. Izuku then decides that he's going to keep this sword because he finds this as his ticket to being a hero. He doesn't actually know where the sword comes from or if it's alive or not, but he's going to keep it. Samehada, initiating this, immediately goes over to Izuku, and it then turns back into a normal sword. Izuku then says, whoa, you are ginormous, like you normally are, but just really big. This is not going to happen. Samehada then realizes that Izuku's not strong enough to hold him, so he then transforms into a tiny little katana-like thing. And Izuku starts barely pulling that on the ground, going back to his house. He goes through his backyard and goes through the back door, which is always open because Inko doesn't lock it, because during the day she keeps it open for air. So yeah. Izuku hurries up to his room as quickly as possible, and he starts fiddling with Samehada, but it's not really doing anything. Izuku then closes his eyes and touches Samehada, and then he changes again. His eyes have a deep blue outline with black slits, and he feels energized again. But then the influx of information, it's not as bad as it was the first time, but it's still pretty bad. Izuku then wonders what else he can do. Izuku continues transforming and detransforming quickly and quickly and quickly. He continues to do this for a while, Inko eventually notices like all these differences, but she doesn't really care because, and I'll tell you why, because Inko knows what family Hisashi's from. Hisashi's from a very powerful, like, clan, well-known family, the Hoshigakis, right? Like, they're very well known for their abilities and powers. So when Izuku walks down the stairs with deep blue eyes with black slits, she's not at all alarmed because she's heard that sometimes the mutations can manifest later on in life instead of just immediately. Then we skip to a while into the future, about 8 years to be precise. Izuku, now being 12, has fully mastered most of his transformations with Samehada. He learned that among other abilities, he has super strength, super durability, senses, reaction time. He can breathe underwater, even control water, and very, very advanced regeneration, along with being able, when Samehada is in sword form, to neutralize quirks with just a simple touch. Izuku then realizes that this is a very powerful ability and that he has to be careful. But he realized a long time ago that he wanted to be a hero, and he still commits to that. By this time, Izuku can successfully hold Samehada with just one hand, waving it around because he's gotten used to it, and his body has gotten stronger quickly because of the fact that his regeneration has made muscle growth around a couple times faster than normal humans, so it hasn't been hard for Izuku to become strong and muscular really, really easily. When Izuku a while ago started separating from Samehada pretty much is just regular, but Izuku's eyes would stay in that transformed state for a while and then dissipate and back to how they normally were. Izuku noticed this, and eventually Izuku's eyes didn't transform back, and his eyes stayed the same. That's when he acquired the ability to manipulate water freely. Izuku was extraordinarily adept with manipulating water, way past most people with quirks water-based. He could easily rip the moisture from the air and control it. He could make bubbles and domes and shapes. He could even create water out of thin air if he wanted to, and even use it as pressurized beams, almost anything he wanted. He could also freeze it into ice and manipulate it from there as well, but that was a more advanced ability that took him a while. That's when we skip to when Izuku was around 15 years old, right around when the normal story starts happening. This is when Izuku was right before his break, the 10-month break for UA. Izuku was at school. His rapid changes resulted in him not being bullied anymore, but I don't think he would be bullied anymore anyway, because I'm about to tell you, he stopped being bullied by Bakugo because Bakugo felt bad about what he did when he hurt Izuku that badly, and he realized just how powerful he was and just how bad he was acting trying to be a hero. So he stopped bothering Izuku all entirely and just left him alone to his own devices. He noticed Izuku's eyes change and his personalities change. Izuku was more confident, more assertive, and was not scared at all. He had no fear in him, and it was almost like he was a predator or something. He would attack when they would spar, and he would mercilessly, brutally assault them until they would fall to the ground exhausted or sometimes broken. Izuku had no remorse for people that he fought in battle. Izuku was different when he was around one girl, Mina. Mina, who is actually his girlfriend by this point in time, because Izuku been asked her out. When he was around Mina, his demeanor entirely changed. He was not aggressive, he was not angry, he was in fact laid back, relaxed, in a peaceful mood, not at all angry. That's when it finally clicked for Bakugo that Izuku must have gotten some type of ability a while ago, but he already figured that from a long time ago when Izuku's eyes changed. But the biggest difference was that sword. Izuku one time when they were sparring pulled out a sword from nowhere and it just appeared. And along with that, that's around the time when Izuku started manipulating water around him. Bakugo was getting suspicious because it didn't make sense. Being able to manifest objects or maybe just that sword and being able to control water and having enhanced durability, strength, and all of that, that seemed like a lot. Way more than a quirk. Too much for a quirk. He began to get suspicious, but whenever he'd ask Izuku would never acknowledge his questions because he didn't acknowledge Bakugo's existence, which made him angry, of course. But he figured it was only fair. But with that, I think I'm going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and all of that other stuff. Because I feel like this is going to be an amazing series. And we haven't even gotten into the action. I promise. It'll probably be next episode. If you guys want to see a next episode, there's going to be so much action. It is going to probably be one of my favorite series of all time. Because Izuku is just going to be this amazing prodigy in battle that's just super powerful. And I think the Samehada interaction is also important. We're also going to learn a bit more about the Hoshigaki family and how they're going to interact in this universe as well. So, yeah. If you guys really want to see another episode, just let me know because I'll make it as soon as I can if you guys want it that badly. So make sure you do because I want to make another episode. But without any further ado, peace.